What is a NSFW story you would like to share? I'll tell the story of my first Soul experience. It was terrible. I was 14 or 15 and getting a HJ for the first time. Except this girl obviously had never seen any internet PRN before in her life. She had absolutely no clue what she was doing. We were in her living room and her parents wouldn't be home for another hour. She grabs it and starts moving it up and down like a lever. At the time I'm like, yeah, okay, this kind of feels good, someone is touching my DCK. After a few minutes she looks at me and stops. You don't like it? I tell her I do, but try to mix it up. She starts turning it like a crank in circles. We keep kissing and this continues for a few more minutes and she stops again. Out of frustration she stops. Why haven't you finished yet? You have to stroke it. So she grabs the head hard and starts lightly pulling, but she pushes painfully hard. Imagine someone punching you in the pubes, with their hand wrapped around your DCK. Someone is touching my DCK though, so I bear through the pain and tell myself it's not so bad. After a seriously rough pull I cringe and she gives up again. Show me how you do it. I do and she starts doing it. Damn, now we are getting somewhere. Feels awesome. I am nearing the end and let her know. She suggests the bathroom. I stand over the toilet while she stands next to me and goes to town. I tell her it's about to happen, and she panics and runs out of the bathroom, leaving the door open. To prevent ruining the orgasm, I finish myself off. Just as I start to come, I hear the back door slam. Her parents are home, and here I am with an open bathroom door mid-orgasm. I quickly pinched myself off and closed the door. In the panic, I realize I have made a mess on the floor. So after cleaning up I returned to the living room and nobody was the wiser. Later that day I realized the damage done to my penis. There was scabs, rips, and areas that had been rubbed raw. There was blood under my pubes where hair had been pulled out too. It was by far the worst HJ I have ever received. I pretty much had sex with a cheese grater and still managed to finish. Okay, I met a woman for a date after chatting online. We go for drinks, and the chemistry isn't really popping, so I decide to go for a drive and see what happens. After a long time just driving around her city, she suggests we go to this park to talk. I agree, and after talking for a while I make a move because why not? Anyway, it escalates and I end up on top of her on the reclined passenger seat, fully engaged. This is the part where things go off the rails. She keeps guiding my hands towards her throat, and moaning etc. I'm no genius, but I know what's up. The problem? I barely know this woman. This kind of shit requires a ton of trust, which we haven't developed obviously. Anyway, I just kind of have my hands loosely around her throat to make her happy, and not seem like a total prude, when poof, a cop spotlight lights up my car like daytime. So there I am, mounted on a woman, hands around her throat, in a park. As we explained the situation to the cop I realized I was totally fed if she lied. As a horny teen male I tried every possible way to masturbate. At some point I even tried putting stuff up my BTT. It was weird, but kind of neat too. Over the years I would try it off and on. Even had an ex who would use some small vibrating bullets on the outside and sort of finger me. That was fun too. Later I met a woman who wanted to do the real pegging thing. I did it a few times and it was good, but mostly for the kink of it. A random Reddit comment sent me some posts about prostate orgasms. I knew of them previously and thought that I just wasn't able to have them. But from what these other people were saying I was really missing out. It had always felt good to do BTT stuff, but it also tended to hurt and I needed to be super horny to try. Determined I got myself some good lube and found my prostate. It didn't feel magical or anything at first. Just the normal slightly nice feeling I was used to. After applying for pressure and finding some specific movements fireworks went off. It was a whole new experience. Sort of like how real sex when done right is way better than jerking it. I suddenly understood all my gay friends who are bottoms. I totally understood the desire to get furiously pounded. If Disney movies were rated XXX there would have been a song with singing lube and plugs. During my university years, I traveled up to Leeds, North England, to visit some friends of friends for an inevitably messy PSS up, Said PSS up was indeed glorious after buying copious amounts of cheap gin and orange juice like the well-hung grandmas we are. Anyway, so we all go out after pre-drinks and, completely out of character, I immediately hit on a girl as we enter a bar and I score. Baffled, I keep it up and I end up going back to hers. Before I leave I exchange confused looks with my equally baffled mates who couldn't believe what I'd done. It was still only midnight, anyway, so we're talking and making out lots and get back to her student flat, diving out the taxi and scampering up into her place as fast as possible. Squeezing into her tiny bedroom with a nice little ensuite, we quickly begin jostling on the bed like electrocuted walruses, when she pauses. I don't want to be a one-night kind of girl. I'm not like that, sorry. Or words to that effect were uttered and immediately caved in my hopes and dreams. A sudden wave of despair drowned me where I was knelt like some horny little SX goblin at the end of her bed. My CCK went limp. I hung my head, yeah, no problem. Let's just get some sleep. Though briefly awkward and ruthlessly devastating, we did cuddle up nicely and fall asleep. Only that's just when the fun begins. I'm half asleep, climbing out of a dream hours later when I feel a straight sensation. It feels odd and my head gets dizzy. I ignore it for a moment and then it hits me like a ton of Giseline. I'd had a wet dream and I'm f***ing 21. She's right beside me, fast asleep. It's a single bed with barely any room, so the chances of her rolling into my sticky patch of shame was high. Embarrassed, I get up and quickly wash, removing my underwear and rolling them up. I stuff them into my jeans and I climb back into bed, laying in the cream puddle to my absolute dismay. It clung to me. The next day, it had completely dried and left a large, much darker CM patch of doom. I waited for her to get up first and immediately tidied her bed and hid the bed's spunk graffiti with haste. We both cleaned, got dressed, without underwear, and made our way into town. We had coffee, laughed about the night and made our awkward goodbyes. And as I got into my taxi back to my friends, I couldn't help but think about the present I'd left for her. TLDR, I went to Leeds, scored a hot babe at a club. Went back to hers, got blue-balled and denied SX. Had a wet dream in her bed. Hid it and escaped. 1/10 do not recommend. One night an ex and I decided to kink it up a notch. She loved having her SS played with, slapped, squeezed, poked, etc. I miss her, anyways. For some reason we decided on using my belt. While she was riding me I started out with a few gentle whacks. It was going well, so I amped up the force a bit and accidentally overshot my mark. Smack! Right in my balls. We did finish after laughing hysterically for a good 10 minutes. TLDR, slapped myself in the balls with my belt during SXY times.